sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City, where the sun is out from the High Falls Studios in downtown Rochester. I'm Gene Battaglia. Thank you for joining us here today. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. Many platforms which you can consume the show. 95.7 FM, AM 950. Always streaming for free inside the Odyssey app. That's probably the best way to go. That way, hey, you're on the throughway. You're going to the Southern Tier. You can listen back on demand. It's right there for you. We're also on YouTube and Twitch. Hello to our viewers there. You can give us a call once again. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. We are on X. That's the preferred way, probably. You can reach us on all social media, but we're keeping tabs on that. At WGR Rochester is our handle. Dan DeLorean, another week in the woods for him. So Francesco behind the scenes. You'd say behind the glass. We don't really have a glass. That's radio cliche. So Francesco's across the hallway. Tim Schneider, championship game tonight. Our fine producer. He's all in his cosplay, ready to go. Thank you for joining us here today. Hey, to anybody that bought that first house or maybe a first car, whenever you make that investment and it lives up to kind of your expectation, don't you have a little extra spring in your step? Think back to that. I'm not talking about the obstructed views or the bathrooms or the scoreboards or everything. I'm talking about just from the player standpoint. Stepping into that Bills locker room, it's a palace where before, and granted, wasn't in every home locker room across the league, of course not. But hard to imagine one that was just as outdated as the previous one across the street. Like, that's a noticeable difference. And if the players can kind of take to these amenities and just play a little sharper, I don't know, there's a psychology to it, I'm sure, that when you buy a new car and you hit that new car smell, you feel a little better about yourself, or for that matter, the first home, if it lives up to your expectation. There's plenty of different ways we can start the show today, and we're going to talk a lot of Bills football. Andy Young from Spectrum, he was out there, does a great job on his podcast as well. Andy Young will be joining us bottom of this hour. You're welcome to join us anytime, phone, text, whatever it may be. But stepping into that stadium, I'll just start with a positive. You can't help but be wowed. You can't help but think, this is actually ours. Well, for the price tag, hell, it should be. You should be wowed when you walk in there. But seeing the size of that, seeing the bright colors and the smell and everything else that kind of goes along with it, it's not perfect. That's the problem. But I'm just saying, when you walk in that first time, and maybe you're going to go out tomorrow for the first time. They have that open practice tomorrow. The one, it almost feels like a make-good, right? Hey, for that blue and red practice, that's only for season ticket holders who paid the PSL. We'll make up this other one here. And that'll be, you got to be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed tomorrow if you're driving in from Rochester all the way out there. 8:30 a.m. practice. And Joe Brady sticking to his schedule. Kind of admire that. 5:30, the gates open. Wow. Well, that practice tomorrow, it's an interesting week here for sure for the Bills. We'll talk about that. But I got a lot of thoughts on the football team, but thoughts on the stadium. It's the design's flawed. It is. Like, you could have spent the extra money and had the elevator go up to the top on the back end and then have people walk down. That would be kind of the other way to kind of sort of do it, right? Or midway. I mean, just picture any stadium that's how, like, midway through that you poke through, okay, am I walking up? Am I walking down? I thought Thad Brown did kind of a decent job just explaining this. And sometimes here in the sports bar, just like any sports talk show should, you amend things. And the analogy that I and others drew, like, hey, your eyes will adjust. It's like going to a Wings game with the netting that wasn't there before. Now it's around the field. It's like going to an Amherst game or a Sabre game where you're down low and you got to look through the plexiglass. It's not. No, when that sun hits, and they explain it, like, that's different. And then you start to think, well, how's that going to look when, we get a little wind, a little snow blowing in? I know there's the canopy over it, but won't that frost up a little bit, I would think? Yeah, I don't know how that's all going to play out. I think the bottom line is I've yet to hear the story where somebody was upset and the Bills didn't call them and say, hey, let's talk this through, right? But now we got this other story courtesy of Tim Graham, the Athletic, who does a fine job. And actually you hear him on with Brad Ryder on WGR Buffalo, which we pick up that show from 2 to 3. Yeah, one anonymous player calling the field ass, which when you got in, looking from above where we were sitting in the press box, you could see, wait a second, there looks to be some, like, kind of bare spots. It didn't look completely lush like the expectation. Looked like, hey, the team has had a few practices there, at least one. I think that is the story that will be fixable, right? Call him the sod god, whatever you got to do. Water it a little bit more. The other part, I don't know how you navigate around that with people that when the ball is snapped, you're seeing a railing in some spots. Okay, that's not good. And if you really want to redo it, well, that will cost millions, and that's not happening. So just for the people that bought those seats, I just hope that they told you in advance obstructed view. Never buy an obstructed view, too. I did that one time. I was by myself, actually, out in the Bay Area. Took the BART from Oakland over to San Francisco. Dodgers, Giants. Like, what could I do? Walk up. One, please. One. Oh, yeah. Oh, but it's obstructed. But you're in the third row. I'm like, oh, cool, third row. Yeah, the railing, I couldn't see the mound. So, yes, I was down low, and it was cool to see Dodgers, Giants and get the vibe of that. But I learned my lesson then. Like, no, it's like, if you have options, yeah, the obstructive view is not the way to go. 585-866-4326. So the stadium, bottom line, it's one of those stories where multiple things are true. It's impressive. If you're walking in that first time and you just look around and say, wow, this is actually ours. You feel like actually you're in an NFL stadium and you realize, boy, we were playing in that across the street for so many years. If you've been to any other pro sports venue, whether that's Citi Field or Rogers Center up in Toronto, PNC Park in Pittsburgh, rattle off any of these. MetLife for the Jets and Giants. You understand, like, hey, now we're in that game, Buffalo. So I'm curious if you went to the game Saturday, your thoughts. You can tweet in at WGR Rochester. We'll talk to Andy Young from Spectrum coming up bottom of the hour. As far as the game, it went itself. Now, considering, and maybe this was kind of a betting opportunity where we talked to PJ Glasser, never bet on preseason. However, you look back, even though Carolina was playing their second preseason game, do you really think the Bills in their new home weren't going to put their best foot forward? I mean, that was the biggest preseason game for the Buffalo Bills. Since Josh Allen made his debut? You could say, well, we didn't know back then that it was going to be that big for Josh Allen. What we really had, it was just another new quarterback the Bills drafted, and we thought he'd be good. We didn't know he'd turn into, the best quarterback in franchise history. I would say that with the stadium, that was the biggest preseason game for the Buffalo Bills. And they came out, and watching it from above, it's a cool vantage point. I got to tell you, with the press box just kind of looking down, because it's literally you're seeing the all 22 just go, and whoa, there's Khalil Shakir wide open. Big gain, 22 yards. Hey, crosser, there's DJ Moore blowing right past the defense and taking on a defender head on. Yeah, the receiver's open. And hard for me to tell whether this is what the DJ Moore effect is, or just Carolina going, preseason. Yeah. Which I probably, it's a combination of both, I would think. But DJ Moore, that looks special to me. I saw when he got up slow, was just kind of testing out the foot there, but watching him right after, he stood on the sideline. He didn't go over any tent, certainly didn't come off the field. If there were a problem, I would think that, you would see something like that. It's preseason, so that was all for DJ Moore in his day. Stars from the day. Hey, can we say something positive about Keon Coleman? Keon Coleman, on a play that broke down, knew exactly where Josh Allen wanted him to go with the corner leaning one way. Let me go against the grain. And the throw goes, against the grain too, but that doesn't matter when you have a strong arm quarterback like Josh Allen. It ends up looking like an easy touchdown. So Keon Coleman is not somebody you want to draft in fantasy, because if everything goes according to plan, the best case scenario for Keon Coleman in terms of receptions on the Bills this year, he'd be fifth. You would want more in Shakir, and I think Shakir, getting him downfield, Khalil Shakir, let's the bubble screen. Here we go. 4 yards, worm your way ahead. No, Shakir's got hands of gold. Just lands right in there. Get him downfield. It would go more Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, and then I would say James Cook. And James Cook actually saw a little bit of action against and he did just fine. My prediction that we would be talking about Ian Wheeler coming back today. You know what? It was by the time Ian Wheeler was in. Ian Wheeler, Frank Gore Jr., the Bills have a decision to make. Maybe they keep them both on the practice squad. I don't know what's going on with Ty Johnson, too. So maybe Ty Johnson isn't available to begin the season. So we still have a long way to go. And, no, we didn't get any kind of context on these injuries, whether that's Maxwell Harrison or the two safeties, Cole Bishop, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Connor McGovern. Skylar Bell wasn't out there too. So we might learn some things tomorrow. Schedule for the Bills this week goes like this. It's going to be a practice tomorrow, as we told you about. Wednesday's a walkthrough. That's closed. And then I'm curious, maybe we'll ask Matt Perino today or Andy. Do they actually bus to Cleveland, or do they actually get on a plane for something that would be, 3 hours? Actually, I don't know the answer to that. Regardless, they travel to Cleveland. They have the joint practice on Thursday. Now, we didn't learn this from Buffalo today. We learned this from Todd Monken, the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns today, where he says he's looking forward to practice, and he's looking forward to seeing the ones against the ones. Meaning, hey, here's Jared Verse of the Cleveland Browns going against whoever might be starting at center or the guard. Like, you will see ones against ones in those practices. Monken adding that following practice, if he will get together with Bills head coach Joe Brady, and if they're both pleased with the work they got in, then coming up this Saturday, you won't see anyone's on the field. And absolutely. You don't I considering that Josh Allen broke his foot in Cleveland last December, I don't think we need to press our luck with that once again. So, Cleveland this week, tickets are $15. Thinking about it, I don't know. It's a long way to go for just watching backups. Maybe you're thinking about it. Haven't been to Cleveland, haven't been to a Browns game. 585-866-4326. There is another kind of cool story, and so I got to hand it to sports bar regulars, including Chris in South Central Kentucky, who the second it happened tweeted me. And, hey, if I see her tweet over the weekend or off hours, I'll do my best to respond. It just kind of popped up. But this is an elite callback here in the history of the sports bar. So when Tom Brady got to Tampa, we have a friend down in Tampa. His name's Scott Reynolds. Pewter Report, does radio down in Tampa. And Scott Reynolds, we asked him, hey, you've got Tom Brady, but the Buccaneers spent a second-round pick on this kid, Kyle Trask. Like, how's he coming along? Could he be the quarterback of the future in Tampa? And Scott Reynolds chose his words so carefully. He explained that, well, Kyle Trask is having difficulty picking up the playbook. He's a deliberate learner. Boy, somebody, sometimes you say, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but a deliberate learner. Well, Kyle Trask never got his opportunity in Tampa. And there he was, the third quarterback for Carolina in a meaningless preseason game. And the deliberate learner throws the interception to Kenai Walker. And Kenai Walker, hey, you want to talk about a kid that made the most of his opportunities and looks like he could play the part, undrafted rookie. Could he be corner number 4 and beat out Torian to Pride there? Maybe. But right now, I'd have to think it's Walker. Funny, I caught up with him after the game and pointed out something to him about his interception.
Years from now, you can go back and point to this. I got the first ever interception in that stadium. What does that mean to you?
Oh! I didn't even realize that, cuz. I got the first pick in the stadium. That's hard. Damn, I ain't gonna think about that. Yeah.
Did you get the ball?
TBD. I definitely got it, but it ain't here right now, so I can't even show it to you. But honestly, dang, I didn't even realize it like that, though. So, honestly, it's an honor. Shoot, I ain't gonna lie. It's been an honor to even be in this locker room in general. So, I kind of just add those to the chips of being grateful for my opportunity.
So, there you go. First touchdown in the stadium, Keon Coleman. Kenai Walker, the first interception, and that was Kyle Trask. Just not a very good fake. And then I get we want to celebrate, but if that was a regular season game, the Bills would have been flagged 15 yards. I mean, just the whole entire team going down there and celebrating. That's certainly something. 585-866-4326 is the number. Another star from this game. Wow. When we're talking about Deion Walker. Now, we had the story from earlier in the weekend that Brandon Beane reached out, one of 3 teams to reach out to Tampa Bay regarding Vita Vea. And the story is down there. Vita Vea wants a new contract, and he's just not doing football-related things. So do the Pucks pony up the money? You know how this story goes. You don't need to do anything right now. And their GM is certainly going to, take a phone call from Brandon Beane. Nothing happened. But I would just ask the question, though. I love Vita Vea. Vita Vea, to me, and he's a character, too. Think of that. He doesn't wear gloves. Compared to the line, he's like a monster coming through, right? Can you imagine a defensive line with Vita Vea and Deion Walker if you had a 3rd and 3 situation? Yeah, good luck running that ball. It's fun to kind of imagine those things. It's also really fun to see Deion Walker take this step from year number 1 to year number 2. Walker saying, hey, he's playing well, but yeah, he even wants to be better than that.
It was good, but it just showed how much more of a assertive player I could be, assertive and dominant player that I could be, and how assertive and dominant our team could be. We had a bunch of plays out there. We left a bunch of plays out there. So step 2 is just one more play. Make one more play, do one more thing. But I feel great.
Yeah, I think that the Bills really treated that not like a preseason game. And that's fine. It's fine because nobody really got hurt as far as we know. This Saturday, you know what? Play bubble players. And then this Saturday, the tell being if you see a player out in the second half, generally speaking, that doesn't mean they're on a track, if they're a veteran, to make this team. Andy Young from Spectrum. We'll talk some Bills football. We invite your calls at 585-866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia here in WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Bills coming off a win in the preseason over Carolina. Head coach Joe Brady says that's a good start.
A lot to take in with it all, just operationally, offense, defense. But I was pleased how the guys offensively came out, went down the field and get points. I'd like for us to be able to finish on some of those red zone opportunities. But defense coming out with 3 straight 3-and-outs was a lot of fun to see, and so I was pleased with that.
Tomorrow is a practice open to the public at 8:30 in the morning. You do need a ticket, though. Joint practice with the Cleveland Browns coming up on Thursday. We'll talk some Bills football coming up next. Andy Young from Spectrum joining us here in the Sports Bar. Today, a travel day for the Rochester Red Wings. They begin a series tomorrow night in Omaha. On the Major League scoreboard, Cardinals leading the Reds 2-1. They're in the bottom of the ninth. Red Sox tonight hosting Arizona. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
So much to talk about surrounding the Buffalo Bills. As, hey, we kind of move along. I don't want to wish away summer, but I'm excited for football to get here for real. But that was certainly a taste of what we got on Saturday. Andy Young joining us from Spectrum. And Andy, I thought that was the biggest preseason game since, I don't know, whenever you open up a new stadium. And I guess let's start there because there's been a lot said about the stadium, and you've been in there before. For me, that was my first time going through, but your initial impressions of the Bills' new home. Andy, how are you today?
I am great, Gene. Glad to be with you. Yeah, I've been in the stadium, I think, 4 or 5 times now between some tours, the practices, the scrimmage, the preseason game. I think it's a magnificent facility. I think that it is a gorgeous place. I love a lot of the little touches that they've put in. That doesn't mean that there aren't some valid criticisms, right? Some of the obstructed views. I do feel bad for fans who bought seats with obstructed views if they felt like they were misled or that maybe the sight lines were worse than they thought once they got in there. I know there's some issues with signages for bathrooms and things of that nature, which I'm told they're going to sort that kind of stuff out. As far as the obstructed seats, especially with those entry-level stairs into the 400s, I'm not really sure how much they can do to change that. That is, part of the design, not necessarily a flaw, but a concession they sort of made. But for the general scale, I mean, just think about how much nicer the concourses are. Gene, you were in there. Just to be able to see, go grab a beer and turn around and be able to watch the game while you're doing that is really cool. And I like the skyline, the sky deck where you can see downtown Buffalo and Lake Erie. I think there's a lot to like, while there are some things that are not perfect about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny that for the person looking in the railing or it might be obstructing the view. That's really the only downer here, because I read the Tim Graham piece, the quotes about the field. To me, hey, it's a grass field, Andy. That's a step up, and these things will happen. They can certainly fix that here in the next few weeks, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, the turf issue, when we went to the blue and red scrimmage a couple of weeks ago, talked to a bunch of players, and they were extremely happy with that. But watching the preseason game the other day, yeah, it did tend to get torn up, and there were some times where players were trying to fix divots, or officials were, and saw the grounds crew afterwards working on it. And I tend to think it's the first year. I mean, that grass has only been in for a year. Think about, you build a new house and you put the sod down. It takes a while for that to really set in before it, is in a good place where it doesn't get torn up when it's wet and things like that. So I would say there's lots of grass stadiums around the country. They'll get that figured out. Maybe it just takes time to let the roots settle and things like that. But players have begged. Look at the NFLPA, these campaigns to have grass instead of artificial turf. You got what you wanted there. Now that is part of it. Is it can get torn up, especially when it gets wet.
Andy, I don't need to see any more from Josh Allen in the first-string offense. That was all I needed to see. You get a touchdown to Keon Coleman, receivers open, Khalil Shakir, DJ Moore. 3 catches for DJ Moore. Your thoughts on Moore, because coming in with high expectations, certainly that was a really nice debut he had for the Bills. Yeah,
I thought that was incredibly impressive. And I've been really high on the DJ Moore signing all along. I never thought he was in the elite class of receivers, the Jamar Chases, the Pukas, the Justin Jeffersons, even the CeeDee Lambs, those types. But I thought, given the constraints of what the Bills had to deal with the last couple of years, that he would be a major upgrade. You can gripe over the trade value and getting a guy at his age and what you had to give up and the contract. There's no doubt about it. He's still a very good player, and it looks like he and Josh Allen have developed a tremendous chemistry, and Allen looked his way early and often. I think that's a sign of things to come for the Bills this season, and I think he's in for a big year, whether he goes, monster year of, over 100 catches and 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. That remains to be seen, but I think he's going to upgrade the Bills' offense. And I think I've told you before, Gene, I think it just slots everybody in a little bit better position. Doesn't require Keon Coleman or Joshua Palmer to be your number one outside receiver, and you can use those guys in ways that better fit their skill sets.
Do we see a little bit more of the offense opening up here? It was an offense that had the leading rusher in the league last year, but you have Josh Allen. Is that going to be kind of the expectation? Some people would say, well, McDermott's not here anymore, and he liked the conservative offense. I don't think that's necessarily true, but your thoughts on how the offense might kind of evolve overall now with DJ Moore added to that attack?
Yeah, that's been one of the big things I've wondered about all offseason since they, fired Sean McDermott and brought in Joe Brady and promoted him to be the head coach, was how much of what the offense looked like over the past 2.5 years, really, since, Ken Dorsey was fired and Brady took over as OC middle of that season, was on McDermott wanting to ratchet things down and play a more conservative approach. Was that Brady? Was that Aaron Cromer, who was also a big part of the game planning and that offensive staff, the now retired offensive line coach? And I've wondered, will they open it up a little bit more? And I have kind of suspected, just by watching things, that they might do that they might rely on Josh Allen, at least push the ball down the field a little bit more. And also, they've got a horse who can do that, right? They didn't have a lot of guys who were getting separation deep down the field. Allen the other day said that, a lot of the misses on deep balls or the chances on deep balls were on him. He's got to be better at that too, which Josh often says. But I do tend to think they will air it out a little bit more. Maybe they can use Shakir in some different ways. I thought they used Shakir in a nice way, getting him open in the intermediate areas rather than just that, 2-yard and in screen game that they basically reserved him for last season. So I do think you're going to see the ball through the air a little bit more. I also think that they've got something good in James Cook and 4 out of their 5 starters back on the O-line. So you don't want to completely go away from that. But I think they can be really two-dimensional now.
Yeah, Connor McGovern, that was on my list to ask, and I'll just lump it in all together because then you have the 3 players in the starting secondary, Gardner Johnson, Bishop, Hairston, Ty Johnson. Whether it's these or any for any of the injuries right now, Andy, are any of these a concern for you?
I don't have a massive concern that there are injuries that would make guys miss the entire, the start of the season or anything like that. I mean, we saw Cole Bishop warming up. We saw Max Hairston working with trainers at the field house the other day and doing some jogging and running. He's been out on the sidelines more than most at practice. So, that would tell me that those guys are a little bit closer. I did see Connor McGovern, the center, in street clothes, wearing a tank top and shorts on the sidelines at the preseason game, and he had a sleeve on his right leg. So I'm not overly concerned, but I also don't know a lot because Joe Brady is being very, very cautious with information that he gives on injuries. All those guys just dealing with lower body injuries. It's hockey talk right now, right? It's hockey coach speak. So unless you have inside sources who are feeding you some information, which I have not gotten anything more on that from folks I talk to in the organization, I just don't know at this point. But I would think that none of them should be things that are long-term.
Yeah, we're on a need-to-know basis here in the preseason, and right now I suppose we don't need to know. Andy Young, our guest here. 2 words for you. Deion Walker. I don't need to see Deion Walker in Cleveland or in Pittsburgh. My goodness, if they get anything like that this regular season, he will be a player that, as an opposing offensive line, you're going to need to account for.
Yeah, I'm totally good, Gene. for your earlier question, I don't need to see many of the starters at all the rest of the way. They've got a joint practice in Cleveland coming up this week. They can get some work ones against ones there. I don't need to see some of your heavy hitters anymore, and Josh Allen included. But yeah, Deion Walker absolutely dominating in his couple of series that he was on the field with the first team defense. And this is a guy, Deion Walker, who, before he came out of college, the year before he left, was talked about as a top half of the first round kind of player because the traits are that impressive and dominant. And then he dealt with the back issue his final season at Kentucky. And then the Bills draft him where they draft him, but he has got all the traits. And I talked to him after the game, and he said, look, this just showed me how much more assertive and how much more dominant I can be and how much more assertive and dominant this entire defense can be. He was incredible, stuffing the run, got a sack, was just involved in all over the place. A guy at that size that can move with that amount of quickness and ability, really a weapon if he can continue to hold that up throughout the course of the season.
From the Carolina game, because we did see the linebackers out there, were we able to kind of get a beat on Elam Zor or Dorian Williams for that matter? How would you assess how that battle is going at the linebacker position right now?
So the first three series that the starters were all mostly out there, we saw Dorian Williams start, then Caleb Elam-Zor came in for the second series, and then it was back to Dorian Williams, and then Elam-Zor got a little more time, a little more run after that. So I don't have a good feel right now as to how that's all going to ferret itself out. I do think they probably, the way it's looking right now, I guess we'll see how the rest of camp continues and the rest of preseason. It's looking like Dorian Williams is in the lead because of his veteran status here, but they absolutely want to get Caleb Elam-Zor on the field. Jim Leonard said as much. I think it was back at Fisher, or maybe it was, this past week, that they'll have packages for all three of those guys where all of them get on the field at one time or another. I did see when Elam-Zor went into the game, he was the middle linebacker, so to speak, the Mike, the guy at the center of it all, and Terrell Bernard shifted outside to the will. Or the jack, as they sometimes call it. And that's the play where Terrell Bernard kind of went in on a blitz and knocked down the pass from Bryce Young. So I think there will be times where they use all three of those guys in different ways. Exactly who starts game to game, I'm not sure yet.
We're talking to Andy Young from Spectrum. Couple of back-end roster decisions, and one – a fifth-round pick, usually that's kind of the line for me. Like, you figure a second-round pick, a third-round pick, a fourth even should make the team. I think that Jalen Kilgore has made this team. I don't know if you share that opinion, but if he makes the team, who doesn't? Geno Stone, DeMar Hamlin, Sam Franklin, they spent some money on him. They'd have to bite the bullet on that. How would you assess what's going to happen on the back end at the safety position, Andy?
Yeah, I tend to think that Sam Franklin is probably safe because he's worked a lot more into the defense than he did last season in practices, and he gives you so much on special teams. I mean, he was fantastic as a gunner and just really out there in special teams. So I tend to think Sam Franklin's going to be in the mix somehow there. Say what you want about special teams. Coaches view it as important, absolutely. So then, yeah, it becomes down to Kilgore and Hamlin and Stone, and to my mind, they're not going to want to give up on a guy they drafted with the traits that Kilgore has so soon. And I think he probably makes the list because he's versatile. He can play nickel. He can play safety. And then it becomes what happens between DeMar Hamlin and Geno Stone. I don't know that they keep both of those guys. It's certainly possible. And I don't have a great feel right now of which one it is. I think, of course, you like DeMar's presence, and he's been here for a long time. We know his story, of course. And Stone comes in as a guy who started a lot of games in the league, but has had a lot of inconsistencies. And I know when the Bills signed him, a lot of Bengals fans were saying, oh, thank goodness he's not back with us because he really struggled to tackle the football. So that remains to be seen. That's another interesting battle to watch, is who fits in there. And then that also goes to the health of Gardner Johnson and Cole Bishop, right? Like, if those guys do have injuries that linger into the season, maybe that changes plans there.
Yeah, maybe that's we trust Geno Stone having been in this league. Boy, if the Bills are going to have a corner four, it certainly seems like it's going to be somebody that is brand new to this league. Are we thinking Pride Jr. as a draft pick? Are we penciling him in, or did we see enough from Kenai Walker? Kenai Walker getting the first pick in the history of the new stadium. How would you assess corner 4 right now for the team, Andy?
I would think right now it's Kenai Walker, right? Based on the way that he's practiced. He's been noticeable from Fisher all the way through the practices in Buffalo. It seems like every day we look up and Kenai Walker is making some kind of play, and then he does so in the preseason game. I don't know enough, haven't seen enough from Toriano Pride. I know he's one of the faster guys in the draft at his position, but that's probably a guy you can get back on the practice squad. And now Kenai Walker has put it on tape in front of national television, right, for everybody to see with the Carolina Panthers and the interception he had there. So to me right now, if I'm Brandon Beane and Joe Brady and Jim Leonard, it's probably Kenai Walker. But yeah, I don't get paid that kind of money to make those decisions. But to my eye, it's been Kenai Walker. Certainly more impactful than Toriano Pride to this point.
I will carry the flag for Tre'Davious White, and I don't know the reason why he's not in the league right now. I could speculate, but your thoughts here, Andy? Like, is the door still open, or is it looking more and more like, hey, if Tre'Davious White's going to play in this league, he'll be somewhere else this season?
You know, a couple of weeks ago, maybe before camp, I almost thought it was a guarantee that we would see Trey White at some point. Now, we still could. There's no doubt about that. I think there's an open line of communication. I think Trey is still around town, from what I understand, to some degree. So that could be a case where they're not liking what they see enough. They want that veteran presence, somebody who's been there, done that, to be out there on the field ahead of a Kenai Walker, an undrafted guy, or a Toriano Pride, or somebody else maybe that we're not talking about at that position. Cornerback 3, you know, we talked all about Brandon Beane saying depth at corner was their biggest concern, and they still have a hole there, right? You're going to probably carry 4 corners on game day, I would think. Here's the caveat, though. We have seen D. Kilgore, the nickel cornerback, do some outside corner work as well, and he's got some history there in the NFL of the ability to do that. So do they feel more comfortable, hey, we'll take the top 3, you know, one of those guys goes down, we'll slide Alfred over to outside corner, and then maybe we'll have a Jordan Hancock, who's been really impressive as a backup nickel and a backup safety, slide into that nickel spot if need be. I think that's a possibility too. I wouldn't rule Trey White out, but I think right now they're probably fairly comfortable with where they are. But again, we could see him at some point.
I didn't think Kyle Allen, from the parts we saw at Fisher, was all that impressive. But, hey, he did what he had to do. Is Kyle Allen the backup quarterback when the season starts here?
Yeah, that was a battle throughout the time at St. John Fisher University. I'm kind of thinking like, man, is Shane Buechele really making the push? Because Buechele seemed to be better through a lot of those practices than Kyle Allen. But I thought Kyle Allen was really good. I mean, look at the stat line in that game against the Carolina Panthers, and his veteran nature, having played in whatever it is, 34 games or something like that in the NFL, the friendship with Josh Allen, we know that's the case. To my mind right now, after watching that game, it's probably going to go towards Kyle Allen. But, I mean, is anybody incredibly confident if Josh Allen goes down for 3 weeks for whatever reason, God forbid, if Bills fans, Bills Mafia don't want to put that in the ether for you, but are you confident in either one of those guys really treading water? Maybe more so Kyle Allen than Shane Buechele just because of the track record and history, but you know, you'd love to see them get, you know, you like Mitch Trubisky, right? But you got to pay a price for that kind of a veteran quarterback with his pedigree to come in and be a backup for you.
Last one here, Andy, and it's about Tyler Bass. Hey, he missed a kick, but he came back and made his others. 4 of 5. Are any concerns? Do you need to see more here? Your thoughts on Tyler Bass?
Yeah, I would love to see him kick a little bit more here. Just the whole issue with him not really kicking more than a couple of times throughout the spring and summer in front of the public. Like, is that a confidence issue? Is that in front of cameras and media and all those sorts of things? Like, what was the reasoning there? I never really understood what that was about. You know, they're talking about, oh, he's been doing it on his own, or where, you know, when you guys aren't here. That seems strange because they always at some degree practice kicking and those sorts of things. And then, you know, 4 out of 5 is fine. You know, it's not like he was missing a chip shot or anything like that. So probably okay there, but you'd love to see more. And just, you know, you do have some little bit of consternation about that, given and kicked really in a game in more than a year, and after missing all of last season, and then some of the issues he'd have in previous seasons with missing and confidence and things like that. So there is room to be a little concerned if you're Bills Mafia.
The Buffalo End Zone podcast. Andy, tell everybody about that, when it comes out, the frequency with it, and what you got coming up on Spectrum we can check out here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Buffalo End Zone podcast with Kevin Carroll and myself. We're all over the place this time of year with different dates and times of games and things like that, but we typically will do one, I think, coming up after the practice in Cleveland, the joint practice there. I'll be in Cleveland. Kevin will be back here in studio, so kind of give my takes on what happened there. And then, we usually try to do them after games and things of that nature. And you can check it out on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere you find your podcast for Buffalo End Zone. Got a lot going on there. Got a couple of features I'm working on. One with Jude Bowery, the rookie offensive tackle, coming up. So keep an eye out for that on Spectrum News.
Yeah, I think he's the backup swing tackle, would you say, at this point? Or he's on the team, correct?
Yeah, it's looking that way. Especially, I think Tylen Grable was injured. Haven't seen a lot that I like out of Chase Lunt at this point. And talking to folks in the building, they're pretty high on Jude Bowery. He did struggle a little bit at times. He had some good plays in the preseason game. There was some Olay plays too at left tackle there. So, but they're really high on his athletic traits and his mindset and skills like that. And he's got a cool backstory that I'll get into in the feature as well.
Well, great stuff, Andy. Appreciate the time. We will check that out. And I know it's a busy day tomorrow and then heading to Cleveland. Thanks so much, Andy. Let's do this again sometime.
Gene, always appreciate it. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. Andy Young from Spectrum giving us a few minutes here. You can hit us up on X at WGR Rochester as a good friend of the show, Yacht Rock John, writing it. And this is the picture, too. Like, if you want to just share with us on X or social media, by all means, like John did. My wife and I attended the Bills preseason opener. New high mark is very impressive. No obstructed view. PA was hard to hear in section 433. Getting out of the gray lot was challenging. Overall, pleased. Yeah, couple thoughts. That's another criticism I've heard is that the PA isn't quite what it should be in some spots. Now, where I was sounded just fine. But I certainly recognize John and others that are saying, hey, can you turn up the volume here a little bit? And that to me seems like, okay, that's one that's fixable. The gray lot. So that's where I park too. And you pull into the gray lot, it's like, whoa, I've got VIP parking. I'm pulling up really close. Got to walk all the way around, which I'm not complaining, mind you. But the gray lot, problem with that lot, John, anybody that wants to check that one out, because Abbott Road is closed, you can only get in from Big Tree. So I could imagine that, yeah, it's only one road in, one road out. And even in a preseason game, it might be a little slow to get out. So thank you for writing in, John. By the way, John was emceeing that event. Apparently, was a smashing success at the coach there, the Mafia Babes. I saw the pictures. I'm like, whoa, good deal. So next year, I'm gonna have to put that on my calendar. We're allowed to go in. It's just not for Mafia Babes. Anybody is allowed to go in for that fundraiser. So thank you to Susie and Gina and everybody putting that on. And we'll look forward to that once again next year. Before we get to happy hour, we'll have Tim's Terrible Take. That's coming up next. My name is Gene Battaglia here, WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester.
Hey, notice a rattle in your ducts or rise in your heating and cooling bills? Well, if you do, give Belknap a ring. With 0% financing, the cost of upgrading to a high-efficiency dual-fuel heating system is a breeze. Learn more at belknapheating.com. That's belknapheating.com. Go green, save energy and money with Belknap. Schedule a free estimate on your new installation. Give Belknap a ring at 716-688-1728. For more comfort and less ka-ching, give Belknap a ring.
We talk sports.
your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey. WGR Rochester.
Yeah, I've talked to people over the Amerks. They're going to have their promotional schedule released this week. So that'll be coming up, something you can look forward to on, I think it's Wednesday it'll come out. So the Bills Day promotion, there's some other big ones, certainly St. Patrick's. Yeah, the season's around the corner, is it not? But before we get to any of that, ladies and gentlemen, on the award-winning show, here's the award-winning segment.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
Who I'm jealous of, because Tim's literally your existence now revolves around softball, and tonight is a championship game, and tomorrow night's a championship game. So here's Tim in his Milwaukee Brewers, but it's actually Rochester Brewers, where the hell you call yourself if you're watching on YouTube and Twitch, which is a little confusing for somebody like, oh, I thought he was a Cleveland fan. No, that's just the team name you are. But so good luck in softball tonight. And, buddy, I'm ready. I'm the practice squad, buddy. I'm keeping myself in shape.
We've only got 2 games left, today and tomorrow. After that, we're on to next year. We'll get you in for some extended training camp for the 2027 campaign.
27, okay. What do you got today?
Here's what I've got today is you and I love sports. Everybody listening loves sports. Obviously, we're listening. This is a sports show. But it is crazy how corrupt all of these sports leagues are. You've got, in baseball, just the Shohei Ohtani controversy, among many other things, including a likely work stoppage next season. You've got, in hockey, a whole bunch of not good scandals and just poor marketing as a whole. In football, you have the Diana Russini stuff. You've got...
Get to the point. The NBA today.
Yeah, the NBA today. I'm not buying that one for 1 second. Kawhi Leonard funneling money, or Ballmer funneling money into Kawhi's contract. I think that the way that they make this go away, we kind of just plug our nose and hope all these things go away. They stay away, but it's because the reporters and the league don't talk about it.
Well, is anybody really upset about this? And for the story today, for folks in here, they finally came back with their report. The Clippers accused of using outside businesses to circumvent the salary cap and pay Kawhi Leonard directly, which there's a fine line there. We have to admit that. What's the difference between, hey, I'm getting an endorsement, and you're allowed to get endorsements, between that and, oh, I'm the team actually setting this endorsement up for you? And then it looked very sweetheartish. The bottom line is the NBA said they couldn't find anything, which the season's around the corner. So I would assume now this clears the path for Leonard to end up in Toronto. This is the league saying enough. We have some actually good press here with the Knicks winning and LeBron going to Philadelphia, and there's a lot of young talent. And let's be optimistic about the league, shall we? Rather than talk about load management and some of the older veterans that, like James Harden, quite honestly, we just don't like. Like, can we just turn the page? And honestly, Tim, I think that's all this is. It's not the most like, what is the difference between this and what the Patriots did? The Patriots with TB12 and somehow allowing TB12 to have like the space in Patriot Place and everything else. Like, yeah, there was something smelly about that too. It goes on more often than not, like circumventing the cap.
Is it that we don't care, or is it that the league is telling us not? We listen to what the league tells us, especially in the NFL. If the NFL says this is the truth, we believe it. But do we actually believe it, or do we just not care anymore?
It's funny, like how the NFL, like most owners love money, and I think Ballmer he's got all the money he needs. I think he cheated. Personally, I think that he went way out of his way. And the thing is, it's not meant for you. You got to understand, Tim. It's not meant for you, the fan, saying we're making sure that everything is on the up and up. No. That's not it at all. We think that's it. You think that's it. I'll tell you what it's about. Hey, Steve, you do this, and your other 29 partners, the other 29 governors, we're not going to do that. We're not going to stand for that. We all want to make money. We bought this team. Some of our guys are actually leveraged on this in the future. So enough of that. Sada Z, as we would say in Italian. Maybe you haven't. Don't dump that. That's that. Thank you, Tim. Happy hour's on the way. Hey, you went to the game. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the stadium. It's a little different than just going in there for the glorified practice there, which was last week. Tell me your thoughts. Certainly the team's impressive, but, I mean, it's preseason. Let's not overreact, I suppose. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is WGR Rochester.
AM WBEE HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Bills putting up the points in a preseason win over Carolina. Quarterback Josh Allen finding DJ Moore 3 times. Allen says, yeah, I expect more of that.
I'm going to go out and make an assumption that it's going to be awesome to do that every single game, is to get him involved early and often, and teams are going to obviously know that. Khalil had the first catch today, handing it off to Jimbo with Dalton and Dawson, Keon making plays. So when everything's firing, we can be two-dimensional. That's when we feel like we're in a good spot.
Tomorrow is a practice open to the public at 8:30 in the morning. You do need a ticket. Joint practice with the Cleveland Browns coming up Thursday. Today, a travel day for the Rochester Red Wings. They begin a series tomorrow night in Omaha. One final for the majors today. The Cardinals over the Reds 2-1. Yankees are off tonight. They begin a series tomorrow night in Baltimore. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Pull up a chair, stay for a while. You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coat, get sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres, Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. Sports bar for Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2 from the High Fall Studios. Gene Battaglia with you. Downtown Rochester is. Let's talk about what we saw from the Bills in the week ahead here. Certainly, it is open for you and happy hour. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. Andy Young from Spectrum joined us in hour number 1. I always value his insight there. And look, just push the stadium aside. And the stadium shouldn't be a source of negativity. It really shouldn't. It was just human nature and, the nature of social media. That's where we kind of drift to, right? The team right now, they're in as good a spot as you could hope for. Let's review. DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir running freely, right? Josh Allen pressured a little bit. Josh looks like Josh. How about Deion Walker? That's it. Great, Deion. We will see you, in Houston, week 1. Don't need to see Deion Walker in these last 2 preseason games. He is a true nose tackle in this league. And the idea that, all right, how did he slip to the 4th round? Well, he just wasn't healthy. There was medical concerns. Now it's year 2, and now you're seeing really kind of a promise. Now, sidebar there. I kind of always chuckled because – whenever a star player is maybe available, and the Bucs, I think Tampa Bay is smart. They shouldn't move Vita Vea. You're not going to get any equal return. If the Bills came, hey, can we have Brandon Beane? Hey, can we have Vita Vea? What would it take? Yeah, I'll take a first rounder and Deion Walker. You're Buffalo. You hang up the phone. No. So I don't think Vita Vea is moving, but seeing Deion Walker and imagining the possibility of what that'll look like with Ed Oliver turning up the field right next to him. And then Greg Rousseau and Bradley Chubb, not to mention some other pieces on that line. Yeah, when was the last time we were allowed to be this optimistic about the Bills' defensive line? I guess maybe last year, just the name brand, the Joey Bosa coming in, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. And in week 2, he had a really nice game against the Jets. Sorry, Peter, it was the Jets. No, it's been kind of not up to par. Maybe this is the year. What about the kid? We talk about who's going to be corner 4. Maybe it's Kenai Walker. Kenai Walker getting the first interception ever. This is head coach Joe Brady talking about Kenai Walker.
He didn't practice this week, right? He found out yesterday. We put him through a workout and was like, hey, you're going to go out there and we're going to go warm you up in either the second quarter or the third and halftime and get you ready to go out there and play. He was all for it. And to go in there and, man, be instinctual and see it and kind of trap and make the interception, I mean, that's high-level play from a guy that's, a rook.
I caught up with Kenai Walker afterward, and this gives you kind of an insight to his personality. I just pointing out something to him he might want to know.
Years from now, you can go back and point to this. I got the first ever interception in that stadium. What does that mean to you?
Ooh! I didn't even realize that, cuz. I got the first pick in the stadium. That's hard. Dang, I ain't gonna think about that. Yeah.
Did you get the ball?
TBD. I definitely got it, but it ain't here right now, so I can't even show it to you. But honestly, dang, I didn't even realize it like that, though. So, honestly, it's an honor. Shoot, I ain't gonna lie. It's been an honor to even be in this locker room in general. So, I kind of just add those to the chips of being grateful for my opportunity.
Yeah, that's Kenai Walker, and he's got a big personality in this. You always want to pull for the guy that wasn't drafted. Can he make the team? Certainly, he's on the practice squad. And can the Bills get away with stashing him there? Other opposing GMs, they value their draft picks, but to me, Walker, he's ahead of the Bills' actual draft pick, Torian Pride. Pride has speed. Baby Pride, you can sneak through to the practice squad. So a lot of things we have to figure out over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks with the Buffalo Bills. It's going to lay out like this week where, all right, it's going to be different. And part of me misses this. What do I miss here in Rochester? The joint practices. Had them twice. It was 04? Did the joint practice where they had an actual scrimmage on the field against the Browns. That was Willis McGahee. He first year he was finally healthy. His first year kind of a redshirt year, running all over the place. That was fun and exciting to watch, seeing Cleveland Buffalo on the grass field at Fisher. And then years later, the Browns came back, but we haven't been treated to that. Here in Rochester, maybe that, for Bills fans, maybe you do get a joint practice at some point in conjunction with a preseason game next year. Brandon Beane always kind of hints at it, won't rule it out, but logistically it hasn't lined up for the Buffalo Bills. So tomorrow, it's the practice that's open to everybody. I think this is the mea culpa practice, I would say. It was already scheduled, but not open to the public. Now it is, where, hey, you want to check out the stadium, but you don't want to exactly pony up for a PSL. Well, hopefully you entered the lottery. 8:30 in the morning. That's on a Tuesday. Yeah, that's a whole full day there driving out there. You get out there, walk around, enjoy the stadium while we can. I've got thoughts on the stadium here in a little bit. Wednesday, a walkthrough that's closed to the public, closed to the media, and then they travel to Cleveland where they will have the joint practice on Thursday at the Browns facility. Now, the interesting thing about that, because Joe Brady, he talked on Saturday and really wasn't at the point for talking about the Cleveland week here, so to speak. But talking today was new Browns head coach Todd Monken. And for what it's worth, I'm not a Browns hater. One of these years, I would just love it. Wow, wouldn't that be fun if the Browns somehow ended up 13-4 behind a defense? Oh, who the hell am I kidding?
Get real.
No, it's not happening. Not with those quarterbacks. You're better off just tanking and trying again because you got the draft capital. We'll see Shedeur Sanders coming up on Saturday. How do I figure that? Well, Todd Monken today telling the Browns reporters, we're going to see ones versus ones Thursday in practice. Won't that be fun? Monken saying after practice, he's going to get with Joe Brady. And if both head coaches like what they see, then there's going to be a gentleman's agreement in regards to, okay, we don't need to see the ones here. We've seen everything we need to see. That's kind of refreshing, right? Because sometimes you get ones versus twos, and this isn't exactly exciting. That's why, hey, that was Bryce Young that Deion Walker was chasing around. That's a starting quarterback in the league. It wasn't Kyle Trask who were subject to at the end of the practice, the deliberate learner. 585-866-4326 is the number. Who else had a good day? How about number 0? Keon Coleman had a good day. Now, I think there was one incompletion where if you look back at it, the play is breaking down. Allen's rolling to the right. Can Coleman turn it up the field? I don't know. Allen wasn't about ready to, wait another half second to. It's the preseason. Throw the damn thing away. But you get into the red zone, and oops, blitz or whatever it was, play is completely broke down. Josh Allen doing what he does, buying time, making sure he's buying time, and Keon Coleman understanding that the leverage he was at the corner, you know what, I'm going to put on the brakes, scoot over here, bam, touchdown. Now, you understand, most quarterbacks in that league don't make that throw, shouldn't make that throw. You don't want to ever throw back to the middle of the field against the grain, if you will. Josh Allen, you could do that all day. With that arm strength, maybe at some point with Josh Allen we're saying no, don't do that. But right now, Josh, yeah, that's fine. We're totally fine with that. So Keon Coleman having a good day, and can he build off of that? And I've been saying this all along. I will repeat it once again. You don't need Keon Coleman to be a 2, a 3, even a 4 on this team. Can he make a play like that every once in a while? Like if Keon Coleman finishes the season, let's say, 50 receptions, 650 yards, 6 touchdowns. Now you could say, well, where he was drafted, that's a disappointment. But if everybody else is doing their thing, meaning nobody's getting hurt, nobody fell off a cliff here, so to speak, then that's good. Those numbers would actually be better than DJ Moore put up last year in Chicago. Well, speaking of DJ Moore, if you went to the game and you're up top, maybe that's a different thing where I'm sitting. It's like you see the patterns, and the first 2 plays, I'm like, Shakir just beat his guy. Bam, big gain. Okay, there's DJ Moore. Nobody's picking him up. Bam, another big gain. It was enjoyable just to watch that. And is it the byproduct of, hey, this is how the Bills' offense will look this year? Guys getting open? Or was it, Carolina, we're starters, who cares? Looks at watch. When do we get back on the plane, go home? It's like anything else in this league, it's a combination of the two, I would think. 585-866-4326 is the number. I'm also welcoming your kind of critiques there of the stadium. As John wrote in, and he gave us a picture. I put up my picture from the press box. Now, that's behind glass. Hardy, har. When you're up top like that, the only thing I can liken it to, people would say the Odd. And I don't really remember the orange seats in the Odd. I've been there, but I can't recall it. Old Yankee Stadium, where you get up to the upper deck, and then you're looking down, and there's the game in front of you. Just don't have vertigo, right? and that's why you have some of the safety features. It's interesting how some people are not calling it a design flaw in the stadium. I'm saying it's a design flaw. Like or did the folks at Legends, the middleman for selling these PSLs, was it little white lies there to get you into that new car, so to speak? Well, I've yet to hear the person that's upset that the Bills haven't rectified the situation. Maybe there's going to be more of those because it's a little different when you go out there for a game and you actually see that. The speakers I've heard is a problem. Not knowing where the bathrooms, that's an issue too. But when you walk into that facility, that stadium, there's nothing else like it in the history of Western New York sports. There's just not. It's magnificent. It's, wow, we are really part of this league. And for Bills players, when they walk into their new locker room, you want to talk about going from 0 to 60, so to speak. That locker room has to be one of the best now in the league. Before, you're fighting for space and everything. Everything is spread out. The lighting, the style, everything sort of works. The one thing I think is kind of curious, and I got to observe this too, and you've seen this in some stadiums where in Dallas, right? Hey, here come the Dallas Cowboys, and it looks like a bar area, right, or whatever it is, and there's just fans on both sides. That's how it is in Buffalo too. Like you have this kind of effect that here are the gladiators walking through the crowd. Not that you can reach over and touch Josh Allen, certainly wouldn't allow it, but this is like an hour after the game, and because this is kind of a VIP, bar, restaurant sort of area, there's just players and specifically some kids that are just hoping that, hey, will one player kind of walk over here and sign autographs? I don't know if any of them did, but there's a lot to learn about this stadium. I did the one lap around. I did notice the folding table, that, the artwork, and I just find it ironic that here are the Bills celebrating that spirit of Buffalo, but don't do this outside in our parking lot. You've got to leave after the game. Right? There's kind of a corporate, for example, like every time the PA, say, hey, fans, kind of get up. No. It's, hey, Bills Mafia. Everything is Bills Mafia. And it seems like when it's coming from you, the PA guy, or you, the organization, it just doesn't, it feels like you're pandering a little bit. Just a little bit. So, these are all minor complaints. When there was a challenge, the Bills did not get, and they put it up on the scoreboard, and I was one to say, I don't need the big old scoreboard, but that would be my recommendation, that use the whole scoreboard to show the challenge, because where I'm sitting, I can't tell. Maybe, if it was blown up on the scoreboard, you still couldn't tell. But use more of it, more content, less ads on the scoreboard, and I think people will, who am I kidding on that? So, again, your thoughts on the stadium. Tim Graham has the piece today, and this is the fixable thing, being the field itself. And in a way, it's a little disappointing. Follow me on this. What did we just get done with? What was something this past summer that exceeded your expectation? Unless you're a soccer nut and you were counting on the days. It was the World Cup. The World Cup was fantastic. Even though the United States had a kind of a bum ending to it, seeing our NFL facilities look the way they do, with visitors and people saying nice things about our country, it was refreshing. It was fun. Seeing grass at MetLife and Foxborough and SoFi and Jerry World in Atlanta. All these stadiums with the turf, and you're just going to all of a sudden put in this temporary grass, and it works. It looks awesome. Was there any complaint? Now, I would think there's probably FIFA standards and a FIFA protocol for all this. Whatever it was, it all came out great. Okay, then how did we get to a stadium where this sod just looks like you laid it down last week, which that's not the case. It actually went in last fall, and the roots stayed over the winter. I hate to say this, like if I think of bad grass fields in modern day NFL, what do they call it, Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh? Like, because, hey, Pitt played there was a high school game. I remember, boy, that field's torn up. Yeah, the field in Buffalo was not looking good at the end in particular. Can they actually make that work a little bit better? That's fixable. That's just roll your sleeves up and just baby the heck out of that thing. I mean, the Bills over at Fisher, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but that grass field certainly looked like it was just fine, holding up for the most part over the years. 585-866-4326 is our number. In hour number one, we did talk to our friend Andy Young from Spectrum. And if you missed that, it's inside the Odyssey app. Tomorrow on the show, we'll talk to Matt Perino. He was certainly out of the stadium, and he'll be heading to Cleveland. Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast will be our guest tomorrow as well. 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. George from Rochester giving us a call. George, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
I can't complain. The sun is out, and that Bills team looked the stadium talk aside, and the stadium's magnificent, but a lot to be optimistic about the team on the field, George, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to the practice tomorrow, so getting ready right now.
Nice.
But well, I just wanted to add on about the table. You said they have the statue for the table inside the stadium. They also sell the bowling ball shots they do in the Hammer Lot. So it just further promotes tailgating, but it does it at the same time. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I did not see the bowling ball, and for anybody, that's a good point, George. And look, have fun at practice tomorrow. You got an early.
Tasker did one during the game yesterday during the broadcast.
So it can't be all that bad, right? I guess I never did the Pinto run all over the years, though. I would imagine he'd be out there tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. if you got out there that early, George. So
we'll see. All right, thanks, man.
All right, thank you for listening, George. Yeah, that practice 8:30 tomorrow, which means, all right, you want to pull in right at 8:30, you're leaving at 7. You're probably getting up at 6. Whole day off. I did not know that they had a bowling ball in honor of Pinto Ron. And it's Nick, also another guy from Rochester, part of that crew, where actually they put the shots. You familiar with this, Tim?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, they put the shot in the bowling ball itself. I have no problem taking the shot. It just seems a little unsanitary for my liking. I don't know, but then again, we're in the spirit of things. Who really cares about germs and everything?
It's the Bills culture.
Yeah, it's the Bills culture. Let's take a break. More of your calls, just like Georgia, 585-866-4326. Your thoughts on the stadium, your thoughts on the team, and we'll wrap this up and tell you what's on the show tomorrow. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
This hour brought to you by Odyssey Rochester Recruitment.
Are you a digital or media salesperson looking to represent advertising products that stand out from the rest? Odyssey Rochester, the owners of this radio station, are looking for you. Call Mike Johnson at 585-423-2946. Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Bills coming off a win in the preseason over Carolina. Head coach Joe Brady says that's a good start.
A lot to take in with it all, just operationally, offense, defense. But I was pleased how the guys offensively came out, went down the field and get points. I'd like for us to be able to finish on some of those red zone opportunities. But defense coming out with 3 straight 3-and-outs was a lot of fun to see, and so I was pleased with that.
Practice tomorrow is open to the public at Highmark, 8:30 a.m. You do need a ticket. We will be having a joint practice with the Cleveland Browns coming up on Thursday in Ohio. Today, a travel day for the Rochester Red Wings. They begin a series tomorrow night in Omaha. One final from the majors today. Cardinals over the Reds 2-1. Yankees are off tonight. They begin a series tomorrow night in Baltimore. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
As you're opening up the stadium, welcome back here. Gene Battaglia with you. Can we acknowledge that Sean McDermott did really some good things for this team? Like, I shouldn't be surprised at the pushback I got on X. But there's this take. Wondering what Sean McDermott is feeling today. This would have been Saturday. First game at the new stadium. He had such a big hand in all this. Is that an unreasonable take? Yeah, it's some of these takes then firing back. Josh Allen had the big hand. He just McDermott went along for the ride. 2 words, 13 seconds. Okay. I didn't. You want to go that direction? That's fine. 2 things can be true, right? That's kind of a new slogan here in the sports bar. It was time for a change. Personally, I would have gone bigger on the change. I told this to Westwood One the other morning, like to Drake C. Toll. And he said at the time, too. All right, well, you want to change for McDermott? It might have been a good time to change the GM, too. But they didn't do that, so it's fine. We just got to move on. But for Sean McDermott to kind of, move on from him, it was surprising, but I think we all understood, right? But we can't have any empathy? We can't feel like this guy right now, he's McDermott, doing his best to fill his time. He was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, did Rome a few weeks ago, visited Sean McVay just to, because they're buddies from the competition committee, like, hey, can I observe your practice? Really, this is the kind of a glorified way of just networking, right? McDermott, if he wants to be in this league, will be a defensive coordinator. He can pick his spots. He didn't even want to do that this year in Tampa. Could have done that. And he elected no. I don't need to go this route. I'm going to take a year off, and I'm going to evaluate my options. And there are 2 teams right now that certainly would say, I don't think that coach is back, and I think this team is bottoming out, and if we really want to rebuild the culture, let's bring him in. That would be Arizona, and that would be the New York Jets. And does Woody Johnson, did he admire Sean McDermott all those years? And like, I want to bring that guy in. Well, both those teams also have a common thread, too. They're going to need a quarterback. And even though Sean McDermott was on the defensive side of the ball, to say it was all Allen, of course, Josh Allen did a lot of this on his own, but Sean McDermott had a big part of rebuilding the culture here in Buffalo. He's the number one reason. 585-866-4326. That's how I just like, hey, that's all. I'm like, it just a human nature thing. All those years talking about the new stadium, and then you get to the point where you're ready to walk into that stadium, and the next time Sean McDermott walks into that stadium, barring him coming back and doing a guest spot on TV or something like that, it's going to be in another team's clothes. And that will be really, really, really strange. Couple other things going on. We brought up the Jets, and boy, that didn't look good from today. That you had this scare for Breece Hall. Breece Hall going down non-contact injury. Like, oh my gosh, that's the last thing as a Jet fan you want to hear. And Aaron Glenn kind of downplayed it afterwards. Said it's a groin injury, and insinuating he's going to be okay. Which, okay, that's fine. But I look at the Jets' schedule, and if they don't get that opener against the Titans, they've got the 3 NFC teams back to back to back, right? It's Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago. If you lose to the Titans, you might be looking at 0-4. And at that point, 0-4, do you move off Aaron Glenn? To me, you brought back Aaron Glenn for one reason, just to fire him this year. If they're really concerned about planning this franchise, you can't be serious with Geno Smith as your quarterback. You tried that once, a decade ago. It didn't work. And I give Geno Smith all the credit in the world for hanging in there. And he had one fun year in Seattle, and he parlayed that into an opportunity with the Raiders. Actually, he got traded, but still was able to maintain his spot in the league. So that can't be the plan. That is a bad quarterback room for the Jets right now. So it's refreshing from a Buffalo standpoint. Like, okay, we don't have to worry about that. Even Miami. If you want to fantasize that Malik Willis will all of a sudden everything will click in and he will be this unbelievable talent, go ahead. It's unknown. We know what Geno Smith is. It's not going to be that. But the odds of Miami turning into anything, that's really long. The Jets is even longer. So you can just say if the Bills don't get 5 of 6 wins in the division this year, something has gone really, really wrong. And by 5 of 6, I'm saying you split with New England? No, the expectation is you sweep New England. Like, can you get that game in October? And then let's see what the Patriots are in December when you got to go down there. Over there, I guess. 585-866-4326. Speaking of the Dolphins, he's not on the Dolphins anymore, but don't overreact to preseason football. Keep telling yourself that. Or if it's just Tua, you can overreact. Tua had 5 pass attempts. And whether the pass attempts were completed or not, the key stat here is the air yards. Those 5 air attempts averaged negative 0.2. So literally, like, the average is he's throwing behind the line of scrimmage, which if the play calls for multiple options and you're just checking down, that's a sign of a quarterback that is fried. For example, last year in one of those preseason games the Bills played, it was the Giants, and I think it ended up being the last preseason game ever at Old Highmark. And there's Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson. And he's out there, and he's checking the damn ball down. You're supposedly a future Hall of Famer. I don't think he is. You were played in Super Bowls, and we're checking down. Isn't this the time you want to take shots downfield? And well, he had one fun game against Dallas, ended up losing, but his time in this league over as well. We have lots of topics to talk about. We haven't talked much baseball, if you want to talk about that. From over the weekend, the Yankees sort of get the job done up in Toronto. But, hey, I'll just instant trivia here on the sports bar. Who's got the last wild card right now in the American League? We'll tell you when we come back. Last call, 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here, WGR Rochester.
raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
So if I'm the commissioner of sports, welcome back. No playoff teams in pro sports should be allowed in that have a losing record. Well, sometimes that'll happen. Okay, then you know what? You're forced to forfeit, and your opponent just advances automatically to the next round. So from the American League, right? So, you know, and forgive me, it's football season, right? And maybe you're not paying all that much attention. It might surprise you to learn that the Chicago White Sox have a 5.5 game lead in the Central. They're a playoff team. Might surprise you to say, oh, I thought Houston was left for dead. They're leading the AL West by 1 game, 63-62 their record. It's the Rays who, gosh, don't ever count them out. Remember hearing the preview show with Brad Noyes, and he's like, no, I'm not. No, don't do that. And I did it too, though. I said, I'm not trusting this starting rotation, and sure enough, there's the Rays, 74-49, 5.5 game lead on the Yankees. The wild card in the American League is like this. Yankees have the top spot. The Red Sox, who start off so poorly, right? Fire their manager. The Red Sox, hey, they're 5 games up. They're in a comfy spot. The team right now holding on to the last wild card with a record at 61-63. A team that was selling not too long ago. That's the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles are right now in a playoff position with a losing record. And right behind them, Texas, a half game. And right behind them, Toronto, a game back. We left the Jays for dead. You want to talk about a team we left for dead? Also 1 game back, Detroit, who just dealt away their ace. Minnesota, a 1.5 game back, and Cleveland, a team that was a buyer. Cleveland's taking the pipe here. They're only a 1.5 game back. All for good measure, let's keep in Seattle with 2.5 back. So let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 teams, 1 playoff spot. These 7 teams have been a pile of yuck this year, but I'm going to tell you what, one of them will get hot. Watch it be Toronto, because Toronto, they have Dylan Cease. They have starters. If Vladdy all of a sudden starts to hit in September, well, then look out. The Jays got back in the last second. Now, is this good for the sport or is it bad for the sport? Baseball is going to trumpet this like, yeah, this is great. We've got a playoff. 7 teams. This is what they want. All those fan bases are going to think, oh, we'll be the team that gets in. I don't know. I look at this like as, just a pile of yuck. I'm sorry, Tim. I'm not. Your Guardians don't deserve to be in the postseason.
It's quite all right. And if they do what they did last year and rattle off 15 out of 17 to close the season, they still lost in that first round last year to the team that they surpassed. So you're right. It's compelling because it's 7 fan bases that are invested for 162 instead of 120. But it's bad baseball. They're not good. None of these 7 teams are good.
No,
and their record proves it.
Theoretically, I could talk myself into saying, oh, okay, Toronto, based on my memory from last October and our bias because we love Ernie Clement. But, no, they've got all sorts of issues. Bullpen, Vladdy not hitting, and could they pull it out here? Again, this less playoff teams. Like in the NBA, you got play-in rounds. That's why people are like, oh, the NHL should have a play-in round. No, absolutely not. Hockey's the one sport that is completely random. Like, we're not going to be happy one of these years when the Sabres are a 2, and they're going to get picked off by the 7 and be like, well, that wasn't fair. Well, hey, the Sabres did it as a 7, got all their way to the Cup final the year Dominik Hasek got it.
Worth noting with this baseball thing, too, all 7 of these teams, negative run differential except for Detroit, who has somehow one of the highest in baseball.
The Orioles, by the way, they do get the Yankees tomorrow night. Carlos Rodon will actually start. So he had 1 start in AAA, and he's been on the injured list since July 3rd. So, if they get anything from him, Schlittler, Cole, Warren, Weathers, and now Carlos Rodon. I mean, of course, the big question for the Yankees, what happens with Aaron Judge? And tell me if I'm right on this. Percentage that Aaron Judge ends up in Rochester for that series that begins on Labor Day. Right now, if we're timing this out, and he's just doing general activities, I don't even know if he's swinging or not. I'm thinking even if he does go to the minor leagues, it doesn't have to be with Scranton. It doesn't even have to be with an affiliated team. They could just send him back to the training facility and face some live pitching from some college kid or whatever. I don't know. By the way, that Rodon, that was against the Red Wings, by the way.
Yes, it was.
It was when he did that. So Carlos Rodon will be a Yankee. I'm going to put the chances that we see Aaron Judge in Rochester at 10%.
I was going to say 15, so I think we're on the same page.
I think we're on the same page.
Not likely, but possible.
But it's possible. Like in terms of like stars on rehab, that would probably be the big. You could say
that would sell it out.
Yeah, you could say Joe Mauer or Andy Pettitte the one time. Aaron Judge, if like he shows up at any minor league ballpark this September, my gosh, that's a huge story. Hottest ticket in Rochester if it ends up going our way. Miss any today's show? Download the Odyssey app. Listen back to it in the rewind feature. It's also in bite-sized form. Thank you to Francesco, who continues to fill in for the vacation in Dandalorian. Dandalorian getting 2.5 weeks off.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I want to see his contract. BetMGM tonight will be coming your way next. My name is Gene Battaglia, and thank you for listening here to the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. Have yourself a good night.